Okay, so at least some people have connected already, and we can start, and the recording has started too. So welcome to the second day of Science Information Spirit Congress. Well, 26th Congress in a row. I have to deactivate the sound for everyone so that, and I have switched off the YouTube translation sound so it will not duplicate me. And our first speaker is ready. So Professor Vladimir Voeikov is already online with his presentation on, and his 1 hour presentation is ready to go. Vladimir, you take your stage. I will.
Okay, thank you very much, Dmitry. And I would like to say Konstantin, to thank Konstantin, who is, I don't know where he is, but yesterday I was also unable to participate, unfortunately, because of some obstacles in this conference. But hopefully today I'll be able not only to talk, but to hear, and this to hear others. And this will be for the 27th, you said, time. This is the 27th conference, yes, Dmitry?
26 to my mind.
26, okay, yes. I even shifted for one more. So today, as on previous also conferences, I would like to talk about the topic which I like mostly, and the problem which I suppose is one of the most important, both for science and for practice, that is water science. And Konstantin asked me to talk about the new findings in water science. This should be the whole lecture course, if just to talk about the new finding in water science in general. And I decided to give some examples in the development of water science based on the studies of long-term change in the properties of water systems after mechanical influences. So mechanical influences are just mostly widespread known influences upon water. Water cannot be still, never. It also in the movement. And the thing is that this movement may be very active or very or not so active, but in any case, what was shown just in a few years, that movement of water changes its properties drastically. In fact, the history of the effect of changes in water movement starts probably from more than 200 years ago. And it is based on the history of the technology of sequential dilution of substances, which is associated with the emergence of the therapeutic system, which is called homeopathy. And it was developed by the great German medical doctor and scientist Hahnemann. His system, therapeutical system, which he called homeopathy, is based on few principles, and two of them are most important for today's for my today's presentation. The first and the major principle of homeopathy is like cures like. What means that substances that in high doses can cause symptoms characteristic of the patient's pathological conditions, in small doses have a therapeutical effect. But how to get these small doses? And Hahnemann developed the whole technological and very important technological process, how to get these small doses, which will not be poisonous, but will have therapeutic effect. And this technology is based on the principle of potentiation, or its synonym is the principle of dynamization, which means that in order to get the small doses of these poisons, sequential dilution of initial substance with intensive mechanical action on each dilution step should increase therapeutic effect of diluted substance and decrease side effects, which are poisonous. The principle of potentiation is realized in a form which you can see on this slide. Original material, original poison, so to say, is extracted with water or aqueous ethanol, and this extract is called mother tincture, MT. Then this mother tincture is subjected to a sequence of dilutions in the same solvent which was used for extraction. So here is the example of dilution 100 times on each step, which is labeled like 1C. This is the 100 dilution of a portion of mother tincture. Then the drop or 1 milliliter of this dilution is taken and diluted with the solvent again 100 times, and then again 100 times, and etc. These dilutions may go to, for example, here is an example of 12C. That means it is diluted 10 times in the power 24, and it may go even further to dilution of 2,100 dilution and so on. Even this dilution already theoretically may practically be devoid of the molecules of original material. And still Hahnemann and his school, which is just a worldwide school, they insist that these potencies or ultra-high dilutions that may be practically devoid of molecules of original material still have biological activity. And in general, in many cases, the more the higher is the potency or the higher is the dilution with succussion, what is most important, that is potentiation or dynamization at each step, the more maybe its biological activity. However, this concept, which is an empirical concept, I would say, in the first place, was rejected practically or by official medicine just from the time when it was suggested. For more than 200 years, there is a dispute, so mildly speaking, between the proponents and opponents of homeopathy. Opponents of homeopathy claim that it is based on concepts that contradict the firmly established law of physics and chemistry, and it cannot work. They ask such, as it seems to them, very simple questions. How can a homeopathic medicine work if it may be devoid of a single molecule of original active substance? So it should contain only solvent at very high dilutions. And second, also the question which follows from the so-called common sense, how can the properties of aqueous water, aqueous solutions or water alcohol solutions be effective by their intensive mixing, succussion, that's potentiation on each step, if they must return to their initial equilibrium a short time after termination of the mechanical action? So most of physicists and chemists believe that if we take a glass of water and we intensely just mix it, succuss it, then put it on the table, then during the short period of time, water again will become still, and all molecules will become quasi-chaotic, have quasi-chaotic distribution in this glass of water, and nothing in this water will come into equilibrium with the environment. So, but there is still the effect of homeopathic medicine, which was demonstrated in millions of cases. And skeptics explain this, and it cannot be just rejected, but they can give an explanation to say that as soon as it contradicts physics and chemistry, then the apparent therapeutic effect of homeopathic medicine can be explained by placebo effect. Well, everybody knows the word placebo, but just the explanation in simple words is auto hypnosis. So the person believes that he takes something which heals him, and he hypnotizes himself, and it really may help. So the rejection of homeopathy, for example, is explained in details in the article Homeopathy in Wikipedia. Nevertheless, if there are homeopathy didn't die, if it was completely ineffective, it should during 200 plus years simply die out, and people would forget about this erroneous medical approach. But still, it is used, and it used practically all over the world. And in some countries, like in India, for example, this is part of official medicine, homeopathy, in India, in Latin America, and so on. So still there is resistance, still there is there is discussion about homeopathy. And the first question to answer before any discussion on the medical aspects of homeopathy, on the clinical efficacy of it should be asked like this. Do serially prepared ultra-high dilutions or potencies of mother tincture differ first in their activity in a placebo, in their action on placebo-free systems, not on human being, which can persuade himself that he is treated, but on systems where there is no placebo effect? And do they differ in their physical chemical properties from a pure solvent, even when concentration of the active substance in them becomes negligible? For example, we take this 12 hundredths dilution of initial substance, which theoretically doesn't contain a single molecule in a liter. Should it be different, or should it be the same as water which was used as a solvent? If there is no difference between these two samples, then homeopathy is really an illusion. But if there is difference between this sample, which supposedly should contain only this water, then homeopathy has a scientific foundation. And we shall now discuss in this continuous in this presentation if there is or if there is no difference between these two samples. So, over the long history of the study of preparations representing ultra-high dilutions of various substances obtained by the potentiation technology, it has been shown that they can influence the properties of various test systems. In many cases, these test systems were biological test systems, were animals, small children, and so on. And still, the opponents of homeopathy, which sometimes are have a very high authority in biology and medicine, rejected all these examples. But in recent years, the number of such works has increased dramatically. And I'll tell you today for the first time that in the last few years, ultra-high dilutions began to be used in technologies unrelated to biomedicine, which cannot be rejected by medical doctors and biologists who do not know these technologies. Here are some examples of these very fresh works. A very recent paper, which was published in the Nature-affiliated journal, journal affiliated with the Nature company, Scientific Reports, which is devoted to really just industrial technique, the preparation of piezoelectric ceramics. This ceramics is used to generate and receive acoustic vibrations as distance sensors, sources of high voltage, spark discharges, and so on. And of course, different ceramics prepared by different techniques changes in their technical parameters. And this very recently, in 2020, in this Nature journal, it was published a paper where they show that ceramics, which was using hot pressing technology of this stuff, of this powder containing bismuth, titanium, niobium, oxygen, so it doesn't matter, people know what they were doing, which was pre-treated with the ultra-high dilutions of these powders, of these ceramics was used, have key technical parameters 20% better than those of control samples. So what is ultra-high dilution of these powders? Simply, they took these initial powders, and these powders were diluted according to the classical Hahnemann method. These powders were sequentially grinded. This process is called trituration in a vessel with lactose until dilution 10,000 times. And then it was extracted and potentiated to the potencies as high or ultra high dilutions, as small as 50th 100th dilution. And these potencies, which of course contained no original powder at all, they were mixed with the powder, in fact, and hot pressed. Using the temperatures in hot pressing is about 900 degrees. And finally, they had technical parameters 20% better than those of control samples, to which no these, in fact, homeopathic dilutions were added. So what was mostly surprising for me, that this paper was published in Nature only 2 years ago. Simply because probably it didn't have any hint of biology or medicine. Just a technical advancement, which of course allows to get a material which may be used in a wide range of industrial application. Another example, it's not, I will use only few examples which are known. Of the application of the technology of sequential dilutions of substances in technology. It is this paper was published by the Indian authors, Effect of Ultra-High Diluted Homeopathic Medicine on Electrical Properties of the Electroactive Polymer. I would not just say that, so the abbreviation of this polymer is PVDF HFP. So this electroactive polymer is polymer which also is used in technique, which is like a semiconductor, used in, has many different applications. Here, they prepared this electroactive polymer from monomers using a conventional technique, but they added to it the commercial homeopathic preparation, ferrum metallicum and zincum oxidatum, in the range of potencies from C6 to C200. And it was found the electrical properties of these samples are significantly improved due to inclusion of these two commercial homeopathic preparations during the technological preparation of this polymer. And the effect, the properties, good properties, increases with the increase of the degree of dilution. And I would like just to stress here that the classical homeopathic medicine were used in chemical technology or physical, chemical, industrial technology. For example, this ferrum metallicum is used normally and prepared for treatment of number of forms of neurosis, epilepsy, and zincum oxidatum has pronounced bactericidal, fungicidal activity. And in fact, it is even more surprising, just I would say shocking, that this medicine, which has medical activity, can affect the technical properties of electroactive polymer, which has nothing to do to medicine or biology, just techniques. So, what special properties do drugs that are obtained by patentization technology possess to have such an effect on variety of test systems if, according to conventional concepts, they contain nothing but a solvent? So I presented these two examples from the sphere of industry, from the sphere of technique, in order to show that it should have some very different properties from the solvent which was used for preparation of these ultra-high dilutions. Now, what are these properties which originate in the cause of potentiation? In fact, the potentiation includes not only dilution, and I would like again to stress it, but also succussion. That is trituration or very intense succussion of the substance. What happens to water or aqueous ethanol or other water-containing systems when they are mechanically treated? In fact, the physical chemical changes which happen to water when it is mechanically treated so they begin to study it not so long ago, probably only about 30 years from the first papers in which some people, and here is the Russian scientists, Russian physicists and chemists, Domrachov, Selivanovsky, and others, they begin to study what happens to water when it is treated with audible sound. For example, we have a glass of water and talk in its presence, or is treated with ultrasound. When water flows through thin capillaries, when water is evaporated and then condensed, when it is freezed and thawed. And they found it about 30 years ago for the first time, that after such treatments, which are very normal treatments, you see water evaporation and condensation, freezing, thawing, it always happens in nature, that hydrogen peroxide accumulates in such water after these mechanical treatments. And reactive oxygen species such as superoxide radical and hydrogen peroxide and other pure hydrogen, oxygen, active nitrogen forms appear in water after such normal, usual, very conventional treatment of water. If they took not even audible sound affects water in such a way. If you took not very, very pure water, but you take a solution of bicarbonate or containing calcium bicarbonate, sodium bicarbonate, magnesium, then yield of hydrogen peroxide, which is the result of combination of hydroxyl free radicals, which originate when water is splitted into hydrogen and oxygen and hydroxyl radical So this reaction gives birth to hydrogen peroxide, which you can measure because it is more or less much more stable than a hydrogen atom or hydroxyl radical. It increases. When they published their works in the end of 80s, beginning of 1990s, and not surprisingly, these works were published with great tension, and they had to apply a lot of efforts to publish their papers, because the conventional physicists and chemists of very high rank said it is impossible, because you can split water into fragments only using the intense ultraviolet or passing electrical current through water, and other very, very intense effects on water, because hydrogen and oxygen are connected very tightly in water molecules. But it turns out that water molecules can split into parts, into atoms, under the action of audible sound, for example. Now, their work was published in Russian journals, and it was not well known in to the international scientific community, and forgotten even here in Russia. But during the very last years, 10 years or even less, it turned out that they were right. That mechanical treatment of even pure water, and pure I put here in brackets, because there is no such a stuff in nature as pure water. You can receive very, very pure water, but when you open it, it immediately contacts with air, and oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide begin to be dissolved in water. Water is in a container, and in a container, it dissolves the walls of the even glass or even quartz container. The quantity of this non-water stuff in water is very small, but it is very important. So it's not already pure water. So, but it was shown that even the most pure water, when it is mechanically treated, changes its physical chemical properties. So in Russian Institute of General Physics, it was shown that the radiation of water with infrared radiation, it's just intensive mixing, which we call succussion, but we may mix it even with a spoon. Succussion of vessels with water leads to appearance of its own luminescence and changes in its viscosity. So the mechanical treatment of water changes physical and chemical properties, and these changes sustained for a long period of time. Short-term mechanical treatment, it was already what we discovered more than 10 years ago. Short-term mechanical treatment of weak bicarbonate solutions, like solutions of drinking water. If they contain low doses of hydrogen peroxide, which is an active oxygen, leads to ignition of luminescence in it. And this luminescence, I told it our results at this conference also several years ago, they do not fade for many months. So if you just take hydrogen peroxide, very, very weak hydrogen peroxide solution together with very weak bicarbonate solution, and add affected with mechanical treatment, and then put this test tube, simply leave it, then it will emit photons, very low, of very low intensity for many months and even years. So it means that the process go on in water, which give birth to light from water. So it is not a stable thing. It is just like a electrical bulb. So water treatment leading to formation of cavitation bubbles in it lead to change in the ratio of orta and para water in it. It was shown by Sergei Pershin, so also from the Institute of General Physics last year. Unfortunately, I do not have time, and it needs a very special lecture to tell about orta and para water. But it is very much important that any water contains at least two kinds of water. One is paramagnetic, that means it can be attracted by a magnet, and another is diamagnetic, that means it will be repelled by a magnet. 10 years ago, practically nobody was talking about this very, very important property of water. Now, mechanical action on aqueous solutions of various substances, mother tincture, which I already mentioned, during their potentiation, changes their physical chemical properties much more strongly compared to potentiation of pure water. Most scientists, most physicists, they work with so-called pure water, again, pure in brackets, water. But in fact, we are dealing in homeopathic medicine is prepared from mother tincture, from some original substance which may have biological activity, and then it is succussed, diluted. That means potentiation, and it turns out that if you take originally some solution and not pure water and you potentiate it, then the properties of, even when nothing is left from original substance, then there are differences in properties of these two kind of samples. So we studied and recently published a paper where we compared physical chemical properties of ultra-high dilutions of the so-called hydrated fullerene. Don't have time to go into details of this very important substance which prolongs life of at least rats about 2 times, in the range of potencies from 10 to the minus 7 to 10 to the minus 31 molar. In fact, there is no fullerene in such potencies in many tons of such potency of this dilution. And we compared these physical chemical properties of these ultra-high dilutions and corresponding potencies of water. That means that we took pure water and diluted it with pure water with succussion, so getting the same potencies. So the result was, we obtained many different results. I'll show only one of them. So if you take these potencies, different potencies of fullerenes and so-called potencies of pure water, then one can see that all potencies of hydroxyfullerene have much higher buffering capacity with respect to acidification than water potencies. So we dilute them with pure water, and it turns out that if initially there was hydroxyfullerene in water, and here there is practically no fullerene at all, but still water has much higher buffering capacity. That means that as if some alkali appeared in water, which prevents its acidification in comparison to potencies of pure water. So water remembers, so to say, when we dilute it with succussion, remembers that originally it was a solution of hydroxyfullerene. And also what we found, and we were not the first, we found it for the first time for this particular substance, hydrated fullerene, that when you take different dilutions of water, for example, these dilutions 10 to the minus 17 molar, and then you make next dilution 10 to the minus 19 molar, it has higher buffering property, then this dilution, then this buffering property drops down, then it again increases, and so on. So pH should change with addition of acid, but it changes and then increases, then changes and increases. So these potencies, they change their behavior in on each step. As regards pure water, when we make different potencies of pure water, then at low potencies, at low dilutions, low level of dilutions, they also behave like potencies of mother tincture. But when we begin to dilute water more and more and more, then its behavior is similar to behavior of the solvent of pure water. So this was we found in this particular work that if you succass water, or if you succass some solution, the behavior of these ultra-high dilutions is different from water and from water potencies and solution potencies. But now I would like just to tell about the works which demonstrated that ultra high dilutions or very high potencies of very different biological substances, in fact, really very different from what is expected from the behavior of pure water or pure solvent, which was not treated mechanically. So by 2000s, already by this 21st century, a significant amount of data had accumulated that many biologically active substances can influence in ultra-high dilutions diverse properties of a variety of biological model systems. I told already at the beginning of this lecture about these observations. But there was no good explanation to why they should behave like this, and that's why skeptics always rejected this data. One of the Russian chemists, prominent Russian chemists, Alexander Konovalov, about 15 years ago, begin to study, interested in this problem, and this observation motivated him to compare physical chemical properties of aqueous ultra-high dilution preparations of biologically active compounds with the properties of agitated water or succassed water using standard high precision laboratory equipment. And he started this research with his research group basing on the presumption. We share the general accepted point of view that the number of molecules in an active substance in ultra highly dilute solutions is too small for inducing biological effect. But still, there is biological effect. So probably these highly diluted solutions are not solutions at all. So if you simply dilute something without succussion, then you the active substance disappears. There is no biological effect. But if you dilute it with succussion, then biological effect not only doesn't disappear, but new effects may appear. In fact, this is the second principle of homeopathy by Hahnemann. Konovalov decided to know what happens to solutions during their potentiation. And he discovered that ultra-high dilutions of biologically active substances which possess biological activities are stable suspensions of electrically charged aqueous nanoassociates in water. What it means, nanoassociates, using the conventional but contemporary methods of studies of liquids and water solutions, he found that water contain supramolecular light scattering negatively charged ensembles, and their sizes may reach 600 nanometers. That's about half a micron. By the way, the dimension of a microbe cell is 1 micron. So when the ultra-high dilutions are prepared, in water there appears such negatively charged ensembles, which may contain many hundreds of millions of water molecules, and they are formed in the course of successive dilutions with succussion of solutions of biologically active substances. I give you, so this is a great work. Many papers are published by their group when they studied, they have shown that this phenomenon applies to hundreds of biologically active substances. For example, they take if they take such a substance which is called potassium phenazane, this is an antioxidant with a very pronounced biologically active properties. This is a small molecular weight compound. Its diameter is less than 2 nanometers, and they begin to prepare the successive dilutions with potentiation of this compound and study if it contains only molecules of potassium phenazane, which are should be very small, or something originates in this solution. They see that with successive dilutions, which may be as high potency or as ultra high dilution as 10 to the minus 20, it contains the nanoassociates with diameter 450 nanometers, 300 nanometers, and so on. So in water, if you take originally this potassium phenazane, and when you prepare sequential dilutions, then in water appear some substances which shouldn't contain this antioxidant potassium phenazane, but they contain millions of water molecules and probably also gas molecules, and practically no potassium phenazane molecule. According to just simple calculations and conventional science, already here, one shouldn't find nothing except for single water molecules or their small groups, about 10, 20 water molecules, and such a nanoassociate contains hundreds of millions of water molecules, and it can sustain for many days, weeks, or even months. So what they have shown, that not all the compounds give birth to such a nanoassociates. These compounds should have biological activity. For example, if they take solution with normal concentration of a small molecular weight compound which doesn't have biological activity, then no nanoassociate will originate. So in order to form nanoassociates in ultra-high dilutions in high potencies, they need to take especially biologically active compounds. There are tens and hundreds of such compounds, but there are compounds which are very similar to them chemically, which do not give rise to nanoassociates if they do not have biological activity. Second condition for appearance of nanoassociates is that the solution should be at each step of dilution succussed. Mandatory succussion, again, mechanical action on the on the solution. And third, most important property, most important condition for appearance of nano-associates, which they really discovered, is that if to perform such a technique of dilution in the under the conditions where the samples are shielded from environmental electromagnetic fields or magnetic fields. So if to take special metals which practically shield from the magnetic field of Earth, which shield from the electromagnetic activity, which is everywhere in nature, and especially technical, like 50 Hertz, then nano-associates, even if there is initially a biological active compound was taken or succussion was performed, nano-associates do not originate. Nobody knew this condition, practically nobody, except for, I will only name two very important persons like Jacques Benveniste and Luc Montagnier, that electromagnetic fields are needed for appearance of these very special properties of ultra-high dilutions, which may not contain a single molecule of original substance, biologically active substance, but which contains these miraculous nano-associates, which are negatively charged. Environmental electromagnetic fields are needed. No skeptics knew before this discovery about these very important conditions. Why? Because practically all experiments in physics, chemistry, biology are performed under the continuous action of the environmental magnetic and electromagnetic fields. So if we shield from them, then no homeopathy should work at all. So the conclusion from these studies of physical chemical properties of ultra-high dilutions or potencies and water, which is used for this preparation of these ultra-high dilutions and properties, is that they really differ in their physical chemical properties. Potencies prepared from mother tincture differ in their physical chemical properties, not from a pure solvent, but also from a solvent which is also treated with succussion and so on. Though solvent which is treated with succussion is different from a solvent which was not mechanically treated. Homeopathic drugs are complex dynamic systems and are not just pure water. And the problem of clinical efficiency of homeopathic drugs should be discussed by medical doctors who are opponents or proponents of homeopathy, without reference that homeopathy contradicts physics and chemistry. Homeopathy doesn't contradict physics and chemistry, but it contradicts conventional physics and chemistry of the 19th century, on which modern physical chemical biology, cell biology, molecular biology is based upon now. For example, contemporary molecular and cell biology is based on mechanical key and locked concept about interactions of, for example, hormones and receptors, substrates and enzymes, viruses and their targets, and so on. And this concept, key and lock concept, was suggested in the 19th century. It is very simple to think that, for example, you have an enzyme and you have a substrate, and substrate is a key, enzyme is a lock, and in order for this enzyme to convert this key into something else, this key should get in the keyhole of the enzyme. Same with the receptors and hormones or neurotransmitters and so on. And that's why, since the contemporary molecular cell biology is based on this concept, of course, it cannot explain how ultra-high dilutions, where there is no such mechanical keys and who nobody can understand what are, in fact, locks like receptors, how can it be realized? So, basing on this original concept, the mechanism of ultra-high dilutions cannot be, effect of ultra-high dilutions cannot be explained. But what mechanism of actions of ultra-high dilutions obtained by potentization, having complex dynamic nature, may be proposed. In fact, when we take a solution, and this solution is treated mechanically, and then you have next dilution and so on, then you obtain nanoassociates, which are electrically charged, where then in this system there appear fragments of water, which are free radicals, which become to interact with each other, and all this stuff, this makes the potency active, electromagnetically active. And when we have this electromagnetic activity of potencies, then we may suggest another kind of a key lock concept, a key and lock concept of the 21st century, which is based on resonance interactions. So we know how this, and we use this key and lock concept now in our everyday life. So this here is a key with which you can open your car, or even just activate your car on a big distance from your car. And here, you using this key, you can open the door without simply just attaching with this key to this lock. There is no so this also key and lock, but very different from the old key and lock concept. So it should work. And accurate and selective, it's much more selective and much more accurate action at a distance due to resonance interaction between key and lock may emerge if the partners participating in them are far from equilibrium and represent oscillation entities. So when we are dealing with water aqueous systems, which are electrically charged, which contain, which are complex dynamic system, then we should be based not on the concepts of the 19th century, but on the concepts of the end of the 20th and 21st century. For example, such concept was suggested by Italian physicist Preparati and Del Giudice, which predicted the existence of Konovalev's nano-associates in aqueous systems. So they, according to their representation of a water system, water is a heterogeneous system consistent of coherent domains, so-called, like nano-associates, floating in non-coherent water. These coherent domains are charged, and according to this theory, they carry quasi-free electrons that can be easily donated to appropriate electron receptors, and they can produce free radicals, which then begin to recombine with each other, and water converts into the very active and electromagnetically active system. So aqueous systems present in the excited state represent dissipative complex dynamic systems. Reactive oxygen species emergence and disappearance continuously in them make them highly dynamic, and they provide oscillatory nature of such systems, which turn into the source of oscillatory electromagnetic fields. This, by the way, these oscillatory electromagnetic fields, they may be sustained when they are kept in electromagnetic oscillatory environment, which is always around us. If we shield them from electromagnetic environment, external environmental electromagnetic fields, then their own activity will gradually decay and they will lose their activity. So it again also begin to explain the results of Konovalov group. So these dispersed aqueous systems, in particular ultra-high dilutions, may serve as emitters and receivers of oscillatory signals in an extremely wide frequency range. So this may be a necessary and sufficient condition for homeopathic potencies to exert their action on target non-equilibrium systems, notably on living systems. And just my final comment, final conclusion of what I was trying to tell you in this presentation. The major problem, I began to study non-conventional properties of water, and better to say aqueous systems, because as I wanted to tell you, there is no water as it is in principle. In principle, any water, even freshly prepared ultra pure water, is already a dynamic developing system, because it begins to absorb different other substances from the environment. It begins to be treated with the electromagnetic and magnetic fields and so on. But unfortunately, until now, conventional physics, chemistry, biology, and medicine, they continue to look upon water as on some static system, which may contain of water structures, so-called, which may be called clatrates, or other water structures or different domains, but they are considered to be static, like small crystals. For example, there is a concept of water quanta, which contain of tens and hundreds of water molecules, which fix to each other with hydrogen bonds, and they just behave as small nanocrystals in water. And of course, this water which contains crystals should not have any real activity, because it should not have memory, it should not change in relation to change of environmental conditions. But if we look upon water as a dissipative, complex, dynamic system, then many miraculous and non-conventional for us properties of water, which are not explained by conventional physics and chemistry, may be explained. And I believe very much that the progress in water science of the last 10, 20 years now is leading to change of our worldview, I would say, on water. Because in fact, it also turns out that water is the most essential compound in the whole universe. And it is especially highly concentrated and much more, becomes mostly complex and dissipative in living system, and especially in one of the most important living system, which is human brain. Water in human brain is the most complex system in the world, and most dynamic, of course. So I'm optimistic in the sense that soon, probably in few years, a couple of decades, but the view on water and understanding of water, and understanding that water is the major source of all changes in nature, the major source of energy for us, source of health to us, will become a common knowledge. Thank you very much. That's what I wanted to say during this hour presentation, 1 hour presentation. I suppose that it's exactly 1 hour.
Perfect timing, Vladimir. Very, very, very good timing. Thank you very much. And very interesting presentation. And I have only one question based on that, just a quick one. Okay, based on the slides that we have seen and the concepts that you have shared, okay, it makes sense that, yeah, the homeopathic solutions are containing those nano sachets, the clusters, etc. But when you go to homeopathy pharmacy, you buy pills or those, you know, orbs that are not liquid anymore. So what happens with these beautiful properties of these ultra high diluted solutions when they're transferred from aqueous state to a solid state?
Okay, thank you very much. This is a very good question. And again, a very common argument of the opponents of homeopathy. But they usually forget one very important thing, that these balls are made of lactose, and lactose is carbohydrate, which practically is never dry. Mm-hmm. You see, carbohydrates are most hydroscopic, hydrophilic, well, the second also very hydrophilic stuff is nucleic acids and also carbohydrates. So they are always wet. You can never dry it, but you can make it more or less wet. When you make it wet, now it's humid, I would say. Now it becomes clear that the layer of water which absorbs these carbohydrates is rather thick, and this water is highly organized. Mm-hmm. And that's already my hypothesis based on what Gerald Pollack has done and other people has done also, that when you take the potency or ultra high dilution prepared with this succussion, you have there this nano associate and so on, and you add them, sprinkle them on these lactose balls, and they stick to these lactose balls, and they are stabilized in a absorbed state much more, even much better than simply in a liquid state. And I would like to tell also to remind you the beginning of my lecture when I was talking about the usage of homeopathic medicine in technique. In the paper, when they were preparing this electroactive polymer, they used a homeopathic drug, adding it to original polymer. But in the previous paper, they made even they took the dry powder of a crystal. They begin to tritiate it, to grind it together with lactose. They took lactose, they begin to grind these crystals of this powder of titanium and so on with lactose together, and they made the dilution in lactose. It's not dilution, but mixture, 10 to the power 10,000 times. There was 10,000 parts of lactose and only 1 part of original powder. This non-inorganic powder, and then already they extracted this lactose and so on, and so, and they obtained the technical improvement of their stuff. So the question that why these balls are working is, the answer is because they are wet, because they fix on them the original properties of this water.
Yeah, so Vladimir, my humble proposition is to add 2 slides to your presentation that will explain this process too, because you explained the first part, but everyone is interested in this second part that you briefly explained now. So if it will be there too, then it will give the complete view of the, you know, like this field.
Thank you, Dmitry, for this suggestion, but then you should give me not 1 hour, but 5.
It's okay, it's okay, it's doable. Okay.
My suggestion, if there are now, I'm not sure, well, that I'll be able to present, I'll be present at the end of the session when there will be questions to all the presenters. If there are any other questions, probably I can answer them now. What do you think, as organizer?
Well, we can give you 5 minutes. It's okay if we will slightly shift our schedule.
If listeners have anything
to
comment or to ask questions, then I'm ready to participate.
Well, until now, well, I don't see any questions and in the chat. So, well, and in my opinion, well, Gururaj is saying that he has one. Okay,
I have
one question from India. Wait a second. Wait a second. Okay. Gururaj, you can turn your microphone on.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, it was a very good presentation on homeopathy and especially the details on the water. I want to understand only one thing. Most of the patients who take these pills, which Dmitry sir was referring to, they take it along with the milk or along with any other fluids. Will that interfere with the effect of that particular tablet or capsule, whatever you call that? Will there be any interference of that particular liquid on the medication powers of the tablet or lactose, whatever you just told?
Okay, thank you very much for this question. But first, I would like to remind that I'm not a medical doctor and I don't have experience of a medical doctor. I can give only some hypothetical suggestions. First, homeopathic remedy or medicine is medicine only for the particular person in a particular state of health, as what I know. For example, for one, that is already the art of homeopathy and the art of homeopathic medical doctor. He should inquire, make a long interview with the patient before he suggests him this or that particular medicine. As I understood, probably I didn't understand completely your question. You asked if this homeopathic medicine may be interfered when the person takes some other drugs which are
some water. No. When you take Vladimir, he means that when you take the pill and you drink water with it.
No. You see, you are yourself water, and well, it depends what I can only say that. It depends what water you drink. Yeah, no, just water, just drinking water. But drinking water may be mineral water with high mineralization, or drinking water may be distilled water, or drinking water may be water which contains something alien to you, and so on. So, but it's from my point of view, when you are drinking just plain water, which you usually drink and which doesn't interfere with your state of health under normal conditions, that shouldn't interfere with the action of the homeopathic drug. Even better, I would say, because many problems which we have are the result of dehydration. And so we usually forget to drink enough quantity of water. That is the problem of dehydration. I am afraid, but it's better to ask a medical doctor who is a professional in this field, that if the person is dehydrated, then the effect of even a good homeopathic medicine would be worse than when he is normally hydrated. But that's I also suggest it maybe like this, but medical doctor should give a more definite answer.
Okay, Vladimir, thank you very much.